Day 3 is in the books. The Bengals double dip and add running back depth in round 6. Welcome in, everybody. Craig Sandlin along with Jacob Tissett for Cheddarbox Bengals Draft Recap Spectacular. Day 3, Jacob, officially in the books for the Bengals. No more picks on the board. So barring any late last-minute trades, the Bengals are officially done with 2025 as it pertains to the draft. If anything changes on that front, obviously we'll be sure to let you know. Jacob, immediate reactions from day 3 as you kind of look back on the Bengals picks so far.
I guess semi-credit to us for labeling linebacker as a sneaky need for the Bengals. Couldn't have been more wrong about it being sneaky as the Bengals double up with 2 picks in the first 4 rounds on linebacker Barrett Carter. We talked yesterday about Demetrius Knight Jr., but doubling down somewhere where we expected and really hoped they would at offensive line. Dylan Fairchild, a prospect that wasn't linked to the Bengals through most of the process yesterday, but Jalen Rivers today, someone we've talked about a lot, the Bengals met with at the Combine and at the top 30, at the Senior Bowl and at the top 30, a player that they've talked to a lot and we've thought would be a good fit for the Bengals. Played a lot of time at both tackle and guard. Rare to get someone that polished that late in the draft. And then Tahj Brooks, an uber productive running back. If you're going to take one like Chase Brown, put up crazy numbers at Texas Tech, much like Brown did at Iowa. A lot of miles on him, but we saw how Chase Brown was ready to contribute as soon as he got thrust in there. Hopefully the same thing for Tahj Brooks. I'm very happy with today's 3 picks, at least just on the surface level before we dive into it here, but I think today was pretty good all around.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway for me is seemingly, at least, the Bengals through the course of this draft have added probably 5 players who are going to have a chance to compete for playing time in 2025. Maybe even Tahj Brooks. I don't know. I guess we'll see how Zach Moss is and how Samaje Perine plays into the running back room. But certainly opportunities for all of the Bengals draft picks to compete in 2025 for reps. So that's ultimately what you're looking for in the draft, is to add guys that can produce and give you value in the immediate future. So let's jump right into it. First man off the board for the Bengals in round 4, pick 119, Barrett Carter, linebacker out of Clemson. Jacob, some people had Barrett Carter as a target for the Bengals, but maybe not in the 4th round. Getting him maybe a little bit early, but Clemson seems to be a program that the Bengals feel comfortable drafting from at this point and feel good about what Dabo Swinney is doing there in Death Valley.
Absolutely, and I think it's something that, Bengals fans have come to realize here going into the draft. Players from major big-time programs that are team captains or leaders in the locker room are going to be players that the Bengals often look at, and that's the case again here with Barrett Carter, a 3-year starter at Clemson, a very, very good player at linebacker for them over his time there. I think an interesting player because, as we said earlier, though a lot of people might have said the Bengals are going to draft a linebacker, I think very, very few expected this to be a position they double dipped at. Demetrius Knight Jr. yesterday, then Barrett Carter today. I think that was a pretty big shock to most Bengals fans when it came to the pick here in the 4th round. Carter, according to the Beast, Dan Brugler's draft breakdown, Carter lined up as the Mike linebacker for defensive coordinator Wes Goodwin at Clemson. He was a very, very good player with that green dot calling the defense. He was recruited to play more of an edge rusher cheetah position, what Isaiah Simmons famously played at Clemson. He's a very versatile player, something we noted yesterday with Demetrius Knight. Both of these linebackers give you a little bit of pass rush upside with what they're able to do in their game. You see it here from Barrett Carter in some clips we have, jumping over the pass protecting running back. Truly an unbelievable talent when it comes to athleticism and speed off the edge as a linebacker, but most of his experience does come in the middle of that defense as a true Mike. So very, very exciting to get a player like that. Seems to spell the end for Germaine Pratt, something we said yesterday, emphasized today by the Bengals going with a second linebacker. Oren Burks, I think, is another major question a lot of Bengals fans have. Where does he fit onto this team? What's the purpose of that free agency signing to turn around and use 2 of your top 4 picks in a light draft pick draft on linebacker? I don't know. Certainly questions to be asked, but important to remember in that linebacker room. It's not just Pratt who requested the trade. The Bengals also lost Akeem Davis-Gaither this offseason. While he's not a name that was often on the field at linebacker, he was a crucial player in the Bengals special teams, something Oren Burks did very, very well for Philadelphia. So maybe think of more Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight from yesterday as the linebackers next to Logan Wilson, the Germaine Pratt replacements, if you will, and then Oren Burks, the free agency addition, more of the Akeem Davis-Gaither replacement, if I had to guess, as a special teams player.
Yep. Barrett Carter comes in at 6 foot, 231 pounds. NFL Next Gen Stats had him, from a production score standpoint, the 4th highest ranked linebacker in the class. Overall score, including his athleticism, dropped him down to the 7th overall, but still fairly solid results out of the young man from Clemson. Look forward to seeing how he can contribute to what is now a retooled linebacker room in Cincinnati. Logan Wilson, Oren Burks, Germaine Pratt yet to be seen, now joined by Demetrius Knight Jr. and Barrett Carter. All right, Jacob, we move on now to round number 5. And with the 153rd pick, we get the first pick that I got a text from Jacob that said, I'm finally excited. And that was Jalen Rivers. You mentioned it in the opening, a bit of a combo offensive lineman. The Bengals did say that they project him at this point to be more of a tackle than a guard, but will have an opportunity at either place. Tackle, quite frankly, was a position that, even though we've been focused on guard, there wasn't a whole lot of depth at the tackle position behind the starters. And so they go out, they add Jalen Rivers, who obviously gives them that versatile backup, almost similar to a Cody Ford. Cody Ford, more of a traditional guard. Jalen Rivers now more of a traditional tackle, but both with an opportunity now to be depth pieces on this Bengals offensive line.
That's right, and I think that versatility is exactly what you want. And I know the Bengals listed him as a tackle prospect on the card that they turned in to make the pick, and obviously they're going to be the ones that are making the decision, but both PFF, NFL, and ESPN have Jalen Rivers listed as a guard. He played significant snaps at both of those positions, as you said, 878 snaps in 2023 exclusively at left tackle, 600 the year before exclusively at guard, and then split time this last season in 2024 protecting Cam Ward between left guard and left tackle on that offensive line. And yesterday with the Fairchild pick, they said that he was going to have a chance to compete for the guard starting position right away. And Jalen Rivers is a player that, even if they do characterize him as that swing tackle, maybe your swing tackle's starting at guard. I'm not so sure that Jalen Rivers isn't already one of the 5 best offensive linemen in this Bengals room, putting a lot of emphasis again on height, size, and length, 6'5", 325, with some of the longest arms in this entire draft class. We know that's something that was talked about a lot, specifically this year in 2025, with the number 1 offensive lineman in this class, Will Campbell, having some of the shortest arms we've ever seen. Bengals don't take a risk like that. It's Jalen Rivers with the longest arms we've seen in this class, nearly 35 inches, using that length, weaponizing it, as Dan Pitcher said, allowed him in 350 pass blocking snaps at Miami to only allow 1 sack. The Bengals have now added 2 offensive linemen that are 2 of the better pass blockers, at least according to these underlying metrics, that there are available in this class, or at least in this range for the Bengals. So the emphasis on size, length, and pass protection is something you can really not afford to ignore anymore when thinking about Bengals offensive line prospects. This is a few years in a row now where it's just been take the giant that can keep Joe upright when he's passing, and we'll figure everything else out. It seems like the Bengals did that again here with Jalen Rivers. Probably the most immediate excitement I've had after a pick. Shamar Stewart's ceiling took me a little bit to talk myself into, but I've gotten there in the last couple days. Jalen Rivers is a player I was looking for the Bengals to draft going into Thursday night. Obviously, it wasn't going to be a first or second round selection, but someone I'm very, very glad that they got at the end of this day. Doubling down at guard is something they absolutely had to do. And to get a player who's well-rounded like Jalen Rivers is something that's really important. 64 there, playing tackle in most of these clips in front of Cam Ward. And though a lot of people might raise that as a potential red flag going into moving him to guard, switching positions, in college football, that might not be the case, because you just move your best offensive lineman out there. That's the best way to protect your star quarterback. So with Cam Ward, a Heisman contender, the number 1 overall pick, even if, Jalen Rivers is having an amazing career at guard, if he's clearly your best lineman and he displays that length, you're going to move him out to tackle. And that's exactly what they did last year at Miami. There you see him bumped down to guard, playing a dominant pass protection there as well. This versatility is really something I'm excited about. Playing at a big-time school like Miami, I know it's not the SEC in the trenches, but it's still pretty dang good in terms of NFL potential. It's a Power 5 conference, Power 4 now, conference, and there you see Damian Martinez, a running back that was mocked to the Bengals a lot. I think that's when a lot of people fell in love with Jalen Rivers, was watching Damian Martinez, the running back for Miami, and that's something that's really exciting to hear as well, because the run block is something that is determined as a weaker part of his game. So the fact that he was able to be an impactful player there at some points as well as an elite pass blocker, I think makes him just a perfect fit for the Bengals.
Well, Scott Peters gives his new offensive line core new blood in the 2025 draft, adding, as you mentioned, 2 new pieces to that. Scott will have a chance now to make sure that he's putting in systems to protect Joe Burrow, one of the most important things that this Bengals team could do offensively. You mentioned the 35-inch arms and the 86th percentile in pass block protection win rate. So looking forward to adding Jalen Rivers to the Bengals offensive line. Then in the 6th round, the Bengals go out and they add a running back. Now, Jacob, we talked prior to the draft about what the Bengals were going to do at running back. Obviously, Zach Moss missed a significant amount of time last year with a neck injury. They go out, they restructure his contract, and they sign Samaje Perine, which obviously has an opportunity to address that need. But at the end of the day, there's a conversation to be had about what the Bengals' approach is going to be at running back in 2025. They don't wait anymore. They address that there in the 6th round, pick 193 overall. They get Tahj Brooks, running back out of Texas Tech.
If you're looking for a perfect pair to Chase Brown, you found it right here in Tahj Brooks. Chase Brown was able to come and compete for the starting job with this team right away. Influenced them to move on from Joe Mixon because of what he showed them in his rookie year, because of the mileage he had in college. That's a negative on a lot of running backs when you're talking about them early in the draft, but here in the later rounds, getting a player that's ready to go right away is something that I think the Bengals really looked for, and when they hit with Chase Brown, I think they're looking for something similar here with Tahj Brooks. 5'10", 230 pounds, a true bowling ball running back, the only runner in Texas Tech football history to have 1,500 yards in back-to-back seasons. In 2023, a 90.1 PFF grade, the 3rd highest of any running back in the Power 5 at that point. In 2024, this last season, an 83.3, slight regression, but Texas Tech was a much, much worse offense. He had an 85 rushing grade with an 84 gap grade, one of the most well-rounded running backs in the entire class. No game this entire season, even going back to last season, where he has an overall game grade lower than 66. That's a player that just has an extremely high floor, and when you're looking for a power back to put next to Chase Brown in this offense, you're comfortable giving Chase Brown the bulk of these carries. You need someone who's going to be productive with limited looks, and I think Tahj Brooks is going to provide just that. He has getaway speed, which is something that he didn't necessarily show in testing, which is something I think made him fall down boards, because when you have the production he has here, you see the ability to shed blocks, or shed tackles, I should say, get around blocks, and find the open space in the field. He's a punishing back, and I think this is exactly what you're looking for if you're a Bengals fan to put next to Chase Brown, because we all saw enough from Chase Brown last year to believe in him to be the long-term starter in the backfield for this Bengals team. I think that's where a lot of the reservations came in for Bengals fans when talks of running backs higher in the draft were happening. But Tahj Brooks is a great pass protector, a consistent runner, and someone that did it for multiple years at Texas Tech. He's going to be someone Bengals fans are excited to see running when Chase Brown needs a breather.
Yeah, a lot of wear on those tires. That's the only concern, obviously, at this point. 5 years of appearances, 879 collegiate carries. You mentioned the yardage, 1,500 yards back-to-back seasons there for the Red Raiders, 4,500 plus total yards, and averaged over 5 per carry for his career. So definitely a experienced back that the Bengals are adding, an every down back for sure, but kind of that counter punch, as you mentioned, to Chase Brown.
That's right.
And the running back room for 2025. Jacob, we're going to do a separate full draft recap, but really quick to wrap up this one, give me a grade overall for the Bengals day 3 specifically for these picks.
I think day 3 is the best day. And maybe that is a good thing for the Cincinnati Bengals because you had the most picks of any day. So if you're going to hit on one, you might as well hit on these three. I think this comes in at a solid B+ for the day today. Jalen Rivers is a player that I did not want to leave today without. I would have even been okay considering him a little bit earlier where we took Barrett Carter. I think Barrett Carter, though doubling at linebacker was a shock, I think he's a very, very good player. I think the floor of this Bengals draft class is pretty high, and that comes from these three players, I think, being plug and play, no doubt competing for a starting role for week 1 this year, which is something the Bengals couldn't afford to not do. The frustration after day 1 came from maybe this guy's not going to be ready to go at 100% to help this team win this year. Not the case today. All three of these guys are going to be immediate contributors for this team, and that's something that, in a win-now mode, with Joe Burrow playing quarterback, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins locked up, getting three players that I think are going to immensely help the 2025 Cincinnati Bengals gives this a solid B+, maybe even inching up to an A, just because of how high the floor is on all three of these players.
Interesting take for sure. Make sure you check out Chatterbox Bengals on Sunday morning. Jacob and I will have a special full draft recap ready for you on Chatterbox Sports. Until then, we appreciate you tuning in. As always, for Jacob Tissett, I'm Craig Sandlin. This has been Chatterbox Bengals. Hoo day!
Hoo day!